The creative industry was so far insulated of this AI invasion because a machine could never be creative. But then dall-e, Midjourney came to the market and we creatives started using it to actually enhance our creativity, but that also allowed people who weren't creative or thought that they weren't creative to get into the industry. And that of course scared us a bit. But in this video we are going to be covering how AI can actually speed up our design process, how we can use it as a tool rather than something that we should be competing to. First point, at this moment machines are not creative because creativity is something more like spontaneous, something that somehow relies on your intuition and all your knowledge as designer. Well, this is something that the AI can have because the AI is going to have more knowledge that you could ever learn. But if we get back to intuition and spontaneity, this is something that only us have at this moment. When machines get intuitive, then we might fear. And we're going to structure this video in 3 different parts. The first one is going to be moodboarding, the second one is going to be first sketches, and the third one is going to be quick mockups. And if you're new to the channel, hi, welcome, I'm Martina, and in this channel we cover topics related to creativity, innovation, and the future of technology. My background is in graphic design and in advanced interaction. I've worked with big companies such as BMW, and I also work in Web3. This is why I'm always trying to know more of what's coming in the near future. And I just want to share all of this that I'm learning with you so you can also be up to date. Point number 1 is moodboarding, which is one of the first things that I do when I start a new project. It actually can help you expand your creativity because when you're moodboarding, you are actually getting all these visual inputs from other disciplines and maybe the same industry, but it can help you have another point of view that you might have not considered. I usually start with making a concept map. I kind of like doing it with pen and paper. I know we're talking about AI here and I'm just talking about pen and paper, but this is kind of part of the process too. But sometimes when I'm doing this concept map with pen and paper and I feel stuck, now that we have AI, we could actually be using GPT-3 to actually help us expand that concept map. I'm going to be doing an example, so we are going to be basing the whole video on Mars. So I'm going to ask GPT-3 to list 10 concepts related to Mars, and let's see what we get from here. So we have the planet Mars, the Roman god Mars, the red planet, the fourth planet from the sun, blah 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 blah. Okay, I think this is quite accurate. Let's use these words to make our conceptual map. Boom. And now that we know what we need to look for, we could actually be making this mood board. So we are going to be taking those words from GPT-3 that are part of our concept map, and we are going to be kind of reescribing that as text prompt so we can prompt it to dall-e. We have very weird things. We have, pictures of Mars, something a bit more sci-fi. Also weird writings that could actually inspire with the typography. From 1 to 10, I will rate this with 2, which is a fail. But I do think that here we have interesting stuff going on. I tried to do this with Midjourney too, but Midjourney didn't understand the assignment. It made me nice renders of Mars, which I love, but it wasn't what I wanted. One thing that the mood board actually got right is kind of this look and feel and also the color palette. We know that we want something that is red, earth tones, maybe something a bit more black. And this is more or less the direction that this set. We could of course be using other kind of tones, but for the sake of following this AI suggestion, we are going to be doing this. And now we can go to step number 2, that is making those first sketches. First sketches can take a lot of time, and if you are working in an agency, in a consultancy or something like that, or a small studio, and you have to pitch your project to clients, do you know how much time and overtime that can take? Imagine that instead of working over hours and weekends on just making those first sketches for the pitch, so you can actually include in the presentation, imagine you could just be using dall-e or Midjourney to do it for you. For example, here I asked you to make a sketch of the first city hall on Mars, and the results are amazing. I like both of them, but for the sake of taking decisions in this project, in this fictional project, I'm just going to be selecting 2. But we don't need to limit ourselves to these pencil sketches. We could actually ask dall-e to design the logo for this town hall. This is the logo that we got. I mean, of course, it's only a sketch. Okay, maybe we could go with the first one, depending, because here we have this duality, so it would depend on what we want to transmit here. Same with this. This I kind of like too. I think this is something that it would be very scalable. And I mean, it says Mars cars, but whatever, ignore that, just focus on the shape. We have the planet, also like this red sun. And then we have this that could be, you know, like representing the first civilization on Mars, you know, like the basis of that, you know, like how everything started, the foundations of this. So I kind of like this logo. And now we move to the third phase, which is making these first mockups. For this, I'm going to be using my template, and I want a hyper-realistic 3D Cinema 4D render. Okay, so we get top view and front view, for example, and maybe a close-up. And then I'm not going to be adding any aesthetic because I kind of want this to be the more realistic as possible. And then in terms of lighting, I'm going to be asking for natural lighting. Yeah, I mean, let's see how that goes because it's Mars. Okay, here we have the renders. Yeah, I'm actually going to be running this with Midjourney because I'm not that convinced with the results that dall-e provided. And here we have the results, which are, yeah, stunning. Like, look at this city hall. It even has like some kind of gardens in front of it. Love it. And the light, the way that it reflects, this is perfect. One of the problems with Midjourney and dall-e is that they don't remember what you asked them before, so they are not going to be designing on top of that. They're just going to be starting from scratch. And every interpretation, even if you prompt it the same way, every interpretation is just going to be completely different. Quite related, but not the same. And you know what the solution is? Of course, making the right text prompt that describes the sketches, and then we are going to be getting the renders of that. Now let me see how I can describe this. And now that we did all of this, what do you think? In my opinion, I just think that sometimes you are not creative because, well, other jobs are more mechanical, but imagine you had a bad day and it might be very difficult for you to actually be creative on a bad day. With these tools, we are allowing ourselves to not be creative, but just to choose the right words. That could also be hard, I know, but if it's a brief, the right words should be in the brief, you know? And this somehow could actually help us to kind of bring our creativity back, you know, to get our inspiration back, because inspiration is something that it doesn't really appear magically. It's like a mix of different factors. And sometimes like the planets are not aligning and inspiration is not coming to you. I mean, it will come for sure. Maybe not today, maybe you just need to rest the thought and just come back tomorrow. In my opinion, the best thing that AI has is that it can actually give you some points of view that you might never get to them. Maybe not even another human, because it gets so many inputs. It actually has like, I don't know how many billions of inputs, and that allows it not to be creative, but it actually explores options that your brain would never have thought of because we cannot store that much information. Anyway, after all of this, I just want to make a reflection on what works and what doesn't work when working with AI. Let's start with the strengths. AI is fed. I keep saying fed because it's like we are feeding it with data of the world, you know, so it's actually fed with billions of references, which is something that we can never get any close to that. You know, even we have like a super big team, it's just going to be not any close to that at the end, which is something that we cannot compete with. So we're going to be using that to our benefit. AI is also like faster than us, like in seconds we get all these sketches, all the renders, and this is something that it also translates into being cheaper because we don't need those extra hours that we might take to produce the same results. And in terms of aesthetics and mood, you can literally ask it to design something in whatever aesthetic, whatever mood, whatever style, and it's just going to do it. When you think about the creative, this creative might be super talented at designing in the cyberpunk aesthetic, solarpunk, or whatever punk, you know. When you ask this person to do something as a cartoon or as manga, maybe they don't have the right experience. So then you actually need to hire someone else to do that in that style. In this case, the same AI is going to be doing the different styles. And one of the biggest strengths that I see in AI is that it can provide you unexpected results, which is the closer to creativity that we can see here. Of course, it's based on these billions of references, but sometimes it actually makes mistakes, and those mistakes can be your final result. Okay, we listed all the good things that AI does, but we need to kind of feel our egos again and see where AI is not proficient enough yet. So, what are the weaknesses of AI? As you could see, it's not consistent. We had these super cool sketches of the first Martian city hall, and when we wanted that as 3D render, it wouldn't understand that it was the same project. I mean, it would be amazing that you can make your projects and you can actually work on those projects, so you are never losing the thread and you are kind of continuing improving on that. I'm sure that they will be making that for sure in the future. What else? Well, of course, you need to explain it what you need. It's not like it's just going to be reading your mind and just doing all the work for you. That's not happening. In terms of details, it's not that much of a perfectionist. This is why in this test we are only using it for moodboarding and then further sketches and then quick mockups. I'm not asking it to do a final render for now because I'm still not a master with that. Another problem, as you can see with the logos, is that it's not that good with text. It can be good for a first sketch, but definitely not a final product. And to conclude, I just want to go back to this concept of these days when you are not inspired, when you just feel like maybe you should quit being a designer because maybe you should be doing something more mechanical, that when you are sad or, like a bit anxious or whatever, and you cannot focus, then it's not going to be interfering that much with your work. Because with creative jobs, if you have a bad day, usually you are not that inspired, and that can result into hours of procrastination and hours of frustration and hours of maybe I should just do something else instead, And this is what I like of AI, that it doesn't get moody, it doesn't get emotional, it doesn't get tired, so we can just use it to actually assist us in our job. If the machines are taking over someday, this is going to be part of the reason, And for these days that you are not feeling creative at all, I have the solution for you. It's the Notion template that I created for free with over 180 different concepts that you can be using to write better prompts. If you also want to use this template, not only because of these days that you are not inspired, but also because it's just a good tool for you to explore different options that you might have not considered, then I added the link in the description. It's for free, you can just download it and start creating. And if you want more tips on how to use this template and how to make better prompts, I made this video for you. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you haven't already. See you soon. Bye!